Flare is essentially a fast EVM layer 1. It has a native oracle for prices.
How much is that?
$960.
It has something we call the state connector. The state connector is a deterministic oracle. It's the only oracle in the space that actually has a consensus protocol.
In this Flare coin review, we're going over what is Flare Network, how does it work, why should you care, and if you should invest. Well, I actually don't give any financial advice, but I'm going to provide you with enough information where you can start forming your own opinion about the project as you learn to understand it. And as an added bonus, if you stick around until the end of the video, I'm also going to provide my opinion on Flare Network. If you're new to the channel, hi, I'm Dan. I make crypto content in an easy and understandable way. We're going to break things down to the point where it's simplified so you understand what you're getting involved with. I've been in crypto since 2016, experienced a lot of stress, and learned about a lot of things that work and don't work in crypto. So if you want to learn more, feel free to join the Discord or one of the workshops. Links are in the description. This is Hugo Philion, co-founder and CEO of Flare Network, and that was a clip from him discussing Flare Network. And on the homepage, Flare Network connects everything. Flare is a blockchain which presents developers with a simple and coherent stack for decentralized interoperability. I know, very complicated words. I don't think that is a great description, but what Flare Network is doing is they are creating tools and services for the blockchain world to become more interoperable. And I'm going to give you an example of that. So if you're familiar with DeFi, this is going to make sense. If not, you still have a lot more to learn as you jump into crypto. So when it comes to decentralized finance, there are a lot of different blockchains out there. Some have different services or applications that you may want to use. So let's say you have USDT, a stablecoin, sitting on the Polygon network, and you want to move that over to the Phantom network. To make that happen, you're going to have to bridge your assets from one blockchain to the other. With Flare Network's Layer Cake, you'd be able to wrap an asset with the Flare smart contracts, and you'd have a universally recognized asset on any blockchain. These are called F-assets, and if you thought they said facets, understandable, but we're going to call these F-assets Flare wrapped assets. So the benefit of having an F asset, something wrapped by Flare that is interoperable on any blockchain, is because you can use that value immediately. There's no bridging required. If you have USDT as an F asset and that's sitting on Ethereum, you'd still be able to use that on Phantom. And this would be possible with any blockchain supporting Flare Network. And with the creation of these F assets, Flare assets, they can hold the value of any cryptocurrency like XRP, Bitcoin, USDT, just any coin out there into a Flare smart contract. So you would be able to use your crypto anywhere, ideally, but that's why we still need to understand what makes Flare Network different from other blockchains. Flare Network has 3 features that makes it different from other blockchains, and that's the Flare Time Series Oracle, FTSO, the State Connector, and Layer Cake. We're going to start off with the FTSO, and to understand that, we need to first understand an oracle. An oracle brings in real-world information or information from other blockchains to blockchain. So if you want to find out the weather in Puerto Rico, if you want to find out the price of a certain cryptocurrency, if you want to find out how much a stock is trading at, if you want to find out the results of the Super Bowl, you are going to need an oracle to bring that information into the blockchain world. And when it comes to these data oracles bringing in information to the blockchain world, Chainlink is the #1 service that most people use. Now, Flare Network and a lot of other people have noticed that the one weakness with Chainlink is that it is a centralized service. So the FTSO wants to improve on that and provide decentralized oracles to the blockchain world. So the Flare Time Series Oracle is a smart contract running on the Flare network that provides continuous estimations for different types of data. It does so in a decentralized manner. No single party is in control of the process, and securely, it takes a lot of effort to disrupt the process. So keywords there are decentralized and securely. To achieve a secure decentralized system, a set of independent data providers retrieves data from external sources like centralized and decentralized exchanges and supplies the data to the FTSO system. Then, this information is weighted according to each provider's voting power, and a median is calculated to produce the final estimate. So, we're going to simplify that. I know it's a lot of technical jargon, but what the FTSO is doing is that it's gathering information from a lot of different sources, and they're taking the median information. That means they're removing the crazy outliers out there and looking for what the general consensus is. If a blockchain says these are the different prices of Ethereum, it's gonna find out what most people are saying and take the average of that. And that just means they're bringing in data into the blockchain world while having this consensus method. It's looking at all the information and it's taking what's most likely the right answer.
So the state connector allows Flare to have essentially a view or come to consensus on the state of any chain or in fact any API.
The state connector is a smart contract running on the Flare network that allows anyone to query information from outside the Flare network. It does so in a decentralized manner, no single party is in control of the process, and securely. It takes a lot of effort to disrupt the process. I know that's very similar to what the FTSO did, but the same thing applies to the state connector. So let's break that down. The state connector is actually very literal. It is checking the state of the connection. The state connector allows Flare to have a view or come to consensus about the state of any blockchain or API. So, for example, if you make a deposit to your wallet or any wallet, even on a different blockchain, the state connector can see that. It can read what's happening on any blockchain. Now, this also creates opportunities for safer bridges and universally wrapped digital assets, and that's where Flare Network's third innovation comes in, Layer Cake. Since the state connector can monitor any blockchain, that also makes it possible to bridge assets between any blockchain, because when it comes to crypto bridges, not every blockchain can connect to each other, and even less than that, securely. Since July 2021, there have been 11 large-scale crypto bridge hacks. Over $2 billion has been lost due to bridge hacks, and Flare Network wants to solve that, because if a bridge hack happens, that blockchain can go out of business, people who were involved in that ecosystem can lose all their funds, and it's just bad for everybody involved in crypto. Well, except for the hackers, they did very well, but for everyone else, kinda screwed. That's why, yeah, even DeFi isn't safe, at least not yet, but we're getting there. And with Flare Network, they have the solution to that, at least that's what they say, because they haven't been around long enough to prove themselves, but I am very optimistic. So here's how bridging works on Flare Network. Anytime you want to bridge assets between blockchains, Layer Cake will require one-to-one collateral in the same currency that is being bridged. So if you want to move USDT on Ethereum over to BNB chain, you'll need the same amount of USDT on both chains. Obviously, you're the person bridging, you need someone else to provide the other side of that. And that's where bandwidth providers come in. If you've used DeFi before, a bandwidth provider is someone who puts up their funds to allow the bridging of assets. It's a lot like being a liquidity provider because you do capture a small fee for every transaction. Now, when it comes to moving funds using Flare Network, bandwidth providers cannot move funds higher than the locked collateral. So if there's a bandwidth provider with 1 million in assets available, they're only going to be able to move 1 million in assets at a time. They can't move 10 million at a time because they don't have that much collateral.
We can also, with Layer Cake, we can move any amount of value between two chains, but we're just going to do it a lot more slowly.
Now, the reasoning behind this is to add a speed limit on the amount of funds being bridged over. In the event of a hack, you don't want to see all the funds from one network completely dry up because that's just going to damage all the ecosystems involved. As we've seen in the past, a hacker can just take all the money from a chain instantly. So by having these limits with these bandwidth providers, it slows down the amount of money that's being moved. Now, this really applies to large transactions, so it doesn't really apply to the majority of people out there using DeFi for their personal reasons.
With Layer Cake, because Flare sits in the middle of it all, we can enable you to bridge, so long as you're using the Layer Cake system. The Layer Cake contract on a chain will treat tokens coming from any other chain from which there's a Layer Cake contract equally. So your cETH and your sETH are just issued as one standard wrapped ETH on, say, Avalanche.
And with Flare Network, you can also create these Flare wrapped assets, these F assets that we discussed earlier in the video, that can be a universally recognized amount of value on any blockchain. Well, any blockchain that supports Flare Network. Now, Flare Network is still in the process of even developing more features, so you should also know that they are developing insured bridging for Layer Cake, non-smart contract token bridging, and cross-chain messaging by relay. That was a lot of information. I hope you understood it. If not, I gotta work on that, or we just need some better graphics. Now, when it comes to Flare Network, that's the unique thing that they are proposing, that they are bringing to the blockchain world. We don't know yet if that's gonna prove a success. I'm going to go over that later in this video. So we're going to have more practical examples in the future when these things work, because they just recently launched, so it's really hard to visualize how all of it moves around. But you made it this far in the video, and if you want to hit that like button, I would appreciate it, because it helps inspire me to make more content. Now, we still have to cover the tokenomics, my opinion, and some other things, so you can have enough information to start forming your own opinion. Tokenomics. It's one of the most important things when looking at a cryptocurrency, because you want to know what you're investing in and what that investment might look like in the future. So we're going to take a look at Flare's tokenomics, starting off with the airdrop. Because in December 2020, there was a snapshot. If you held any XRP tokens in a wallet or most exchanges, you were eligible for that snapshot. And that snapshot got you one Flare token for every one XRP you were holding. It was a 1-to-1 ratio. And about 2 years later, in January 9, 2023, the Flare airdrop began. And you didn't receive all of your airdrop at once because Flare doesn't want to see you dump those coins. So you received 15% of what you were eligible for, and you're going to see the remainder of that airdrop appear over the next 36 months or 3 years, whatever comes sooner. Let me know in the comments which one you think would happen sooner. Now, that was initially the plan, but there is a proposal to change that, and that can happen in the next few weeks. This video isn't fully going to cover this, so you might want to check the Flare improvement proposal on the official Flare website. But if the proposal does pass, I might make a video in the future, and it could drastically change the tokenomics of Flare, where right now we're going to see a lot of inflation increase over time as 10% of new tokens get minted every year, or we might see a more gradual line as 5 billion Flare tokens are minted every year. So I actually like the proposal, but there are a few other caveats, once again, not covered in this video. As for the distribution of tokens, we can see here that it's really split up into 3 main categories: 22.5% to Flare entities for product development and investment, 19.2% for the Flare team, advisors and early backers, and then 58.3% for the community. Now, with the largest chunk of the pie going to the community, that means there are a lot of ways to earn these incentives as these features roll out. So that is something to look forward to with the growth of the Flare network. But there's still a couple more things we're going to need to look at. Now, taking a closer look at this list, we can see who can delegate and who can not delegate. And it's pretty much everybody but the Flare Foundation, but everyone else that can delegate is eligible for rewards. That's how it works at the moment, but with the introduction of the Flare improvement proposal, we would see most of those rewards going to the actual people rather than the investors. So that is something I would like to see if it does pass. And here's some other visuals on month 0 of how the token supply is distributed. And in 3 years, the token distribution is going to look a lot like this, where a majority of it is going to go to inflation. Now, once again, that could change with the upcoming proposal. I wanted to find out where this inflation goes. I couldn't find it anywhere. I looked through all the documentation. I asked people in the Flare Discord. They weren't very helpful and got very defensive that I was even asking that. And I found in the upcoming Flare improvement proposal where potentially these inflation rewards would go. So it says here the coins dedicated towards inflation, 70% of that is going to go to the FTSO, 20% to validators, and 10% to the default state connector set. That means a majority of the tokens that come from inflation are going to the FTSO. Flare Network really wants to see the FTSO succeed because that's its bread and butter, where more people could potentially adopt the Flare Network. So they are investing in the network's growth rather than other things, and I do like seeing that. But on the other hand, the tokenomics of Flare is inflationary, meaning there's going to be more and more tokens every year. And if you're just holding the token and you're not delegating it, you are being diluted, so the value of your tokens can go down over time unless the price climbs up. And if you want to keep up with that inflation, you're going to need to delegate your coins. Delegating your coins is a lot like staking. You delegate them to an FTSO provider, and then you earn rewards every epoch. Now, an epoch is just a period of time, and when it comes to Flare Network, that's 3.5 days. Now, epochs are different from every blockchain, so don't consider all epochs equal. And with each epoch, you do get a reward. So if you are a Flare investor, you're going to want to delegate your coins to keep up with that inflation. How to stake your Flare tokens, and in this case it's just delegating them. You'll still own your Flare coins and you're delegating your voting power to an FTSO provider. That might sound a little confusing, but it's pretty simple, and I'm going to walk you through most of that process. You're first going to need to have your Flare coins in your wallet, and Flare is EVM compatible, so you can use Flare Network with MetaMask. So I added the Flare Network to my MetaMask, I withdrew Flare coins to my MetaMask wallet, and then I went to FTSO AU, delegate your votes, connect your wallet, and then you'll have to convert your Flare coins to wrapped Flare tokens. This just allows your coins to work in a smart contract. And once you have your Flare converted into wrapped Flare, you'll then want to delegate your wrapped Flare to an FTSO provider. You can see that I've already delegated to 2 different providers. And to choose a provider, you go to flaremetrics.io, you sort by reward rate, you'll want something on the higher end, and you want to look for someone with voting power between 1 to 2.5%. Anything higher than that, and those rewards start getting diluted when the voting power gets over 2.5%. So we're gonna find someone with a decent reward rate. I already used Ivy Oracle, but yeah, you'll want something in this range here. I look for anything under 2.5% because if they get more people delegating to them, then my rewards will start getting diluted. Now, it doesn't necessarily calculate the APY for you, so it's a little confusing, but let me explain what's going on. The reward rate is per epoch for every 100 Flare you delegate. So if I have 100 Flare and the reward rate is 0.3651, I would earn 0.3651 Flare coins after 3.5 days, because that's how long an epoch lasts. So let's do some math. Let's say I wanted to delegate to this one, O1 FTSO. They have a reward rate of 0.3097. So 0.3097, that's 3.5 days. We multiply that by 2, that's how much you're earning a week. We multiply that by 52, that's how much you're earning a year. And the current earning rate is 32% annually. And then you can also see that they have a 20% fee, which will change over time to 9% at Epoch 71. And at the top of the page here, you can see that we are currently on Epoch 70, so that fee will change very soon. And that's just how you pick a staking provider or delegator, and then you have to go back to FTSO and then choose that delegator. Token use cases. So right from the website here, incentivize delegation to the FTSO to support the provision of reliable decentralized price data. very technical, but basically you do earn incentives for delegating your coins to the FTSO. So the more words you say, the more complicated it sounds, but basically you're participating in the network and you are being rewarded for it. Number 2, participation with protocol governance. So it is a decentralized platform. If the voters or the people with the most amount of Flare vote in a certain direction, that's the path that the Flare network is going to go in. Number 3, collateral within third-party decentralized applications built on Flare blockchains. Once again, sounds a little complicated, but it's pretty simple. As we mentioned earlier in this video, I know it's a very long video, the bandwidth providers, similar to liquidity providers that put up their collateral to facilitate the bridging between blockchains with Flare network, have to use the Flare coin. And if you do put up your Flare coins as collateral, you can earn rewards. So that's just saying you can earn rewards for helping the network bridge transactions. And number 4, transaction fees in order to prevent spam attacks. Because if the network fees are too low, then some malicious person out there could just spam the network, which just kind of slows it down. And we've seen that before on other blockchains. So that's why blockchains aren't free to use, because people are just gonna spam it. Now, from these token use cases, 3 of them, not that unique, but collateral within third-party decentralized applications built on Flare blockchains, that's very unique to Flare, and that's what makes Flare different from its competitors. Now for the Dan opinion. You should approach things with healthy skepticism. You should be critical. It's really good to have a perspective of the entire space and ecosystems when it comes to crypto. So keep that in mind as I provide my personal opinions. Now, when it comes to having oracles built into a blockchain, several different other competing blockchains have been doing that. Let's say Neo, for example, and they really haven't had the growth after making those modifications. They kind of threw in everything from other popular dApps into their blockchain, and they just haven't seen that growth. So even if Flare is offering something unique, that doesn't guarantee that people are going to use it and come to their network. And as for its interoperability and Oracle service, they're competing with Chainlink. Chainlink is a big player in the crypto world. They have already created interoperability as a service. They're working with these banks. So that is a big competitor. Potentially the market has room for both. They could even work together. Maybe that makes things easier and better. Who knows? But Flare is jumping into the crypto markets a little late in the game, as other competitors have already established themselves in some of these roles. Now, when it comes to the tokenomics, I really don't like their inflationary model. The rewards are a little too generous, because when you have these high rewards and you have these tokens being printed every year, it starts diluting people, and you kind of see delegating and staking as a way for retail investors, regular people like you and me, to lock up our investments with the network, while the bigger players in the crypto space dump their coins and we take that loss. The retail investors are the victims of that, and that's happened in a lot of different projects. So I'm always very skeptical when it comes to these staking rewards and when it comes to inflationary tokenomics. So keep that in mind. But then again, it's always possible that the tokenomics change over time, where maybe they introduce burning, maybe they lower the delegation rewards, they lower the inflation, maybe it becomes deflationary in the future. So that really depends on what happens in the future when it comes to governance within Flare. With Flare's airdrop, they had a pretty big launch, but they didn't make it to the bigger crypto exchanges like Coinbase and Binance. I think both of them are approaching slowly, because maybe it's because of the XRP lawsuit. They don't want to list the coins. They'll support it, you can withdraw it, but at the moment they aren't listed yet, so that does limit who has access to that coin. And we don't want to see this listed as a security, because then it makes it more difficult for people to work with, and it makes it more difficult for people to get involved with. It's kind of the same thing, but I meant like developers and regular people. Regular people are kind of down here with that example, but let's say developers and regular people. So for Flare to grow, they pretty much have 36 months worth of incentives, because after 36 months, the delegation rewards start running dry, and the people who are participating in the airdrop receive all of their airdropped tokens. So we're going to need to see within those 3 years, Flare be used on multiple protocols to have a very good use case, and to do what ideally they promise that they can do, and hopefully they do it well. And of course, competitors could arise in the next few years who do the exact same thing, but more and better. So of course I wouldn't go all in on any single blockchain, because anything can happen. So am I investing in Flare? Not really. I did participate in the XRP snapshot. I do have some Flare. I am involved. Right now, I don't know if it's a great time to buy or not. I am holding. I'm not selling. I'm not buying. I am holding. And I do want to see how the Flare network develops, how people respond to it. And they do have a very strong community who is very vocal. Hopefully they can get some quality partnerships, and if I start seeing that happen and maybe the coin starts trending upward, I may get more heavily involved. But let me know what you think in the comments. Will you be investing in Flare? Is there a better investment you think I should look at? Let me know. And if this video was helpful, feel free to like it. I appreciate that. And join me on the Discord, follow me on social media. And with that, I hope you got your full value for today.